Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack. Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining, practice didn't exist. Qualifying, it's in the books. We are ready for Sunday's race. The Win the Race simulator has been plugged in and fired up. We're going to build some DraftKings lineups, give you some targets, give you some fades, give you some of our favorite plays. We'll build some lineups, and then we'll check out the betting odds. What's going on? Where is their value? Talk about some nonsensical stuff happening at the top of some markets. All that and more. But how the hell are you? I know you just got back from a round of golf. Just watched the carnage that was the Xfinity race. You ready to talk some cup cars?
Yeah, like you said, I treated this weekend as my last free weekend, and until we get to the summer, super speedway races of Daytona and Talladega. Because clearly qualifying is important, but it's not the end all for this type of racing. So yes, I went out, I played a round of golf this morning, got the shit kicked out of me by the sun, so I'm exhausted. And yeah, I got to catch the end of the truck race on the drive home. No, I was stuck in traffic, so I was being safe. And the end of the Xfinity race, NASCAR officiating, let them race to the end with the entire field wrecking behind them, which is all we asked for. And of course, that SOB Austin Hill and their freaking cheating cars win again at a super speedway.
Yeah. So we'll talk Atlanta. Obviously, it does have that super speedway feel, some of the carnage, but it also is a little more predictable. Yeah. And as we jump in and kind of look at DraftKings thoughts, there's more opportunity. It's, obviously we did it last week where we stacked the back. This week, you definitely want to get guys that are moving forward, that are gaining track position. But there is a little more opportunity to grab, maybe not a bunch of guys, but if you want to grab one or two guys starting near the front rather, I think it's fine and honestly could be optimal way to build.
Yeah, we've talked about this a little bit in the past and then earlier in the week, in that Atlanta, although it's termed, I guess, a mini super speedway, it's kind of aging into a old school high speed 1.5, maybe not quite to Michigan in the sense of handling is really important, but handling is starting to come into play here. And this is not going to race as similar as what we saw the first year that it was unveiled, like Daytona. So starting position will play a factor, as we've seen, the last couple of years here, where the guys that start up front, they're able to control the field, especially knowing that the first stage, if there's not wonky cautions, they can run the entire thing out without having to stop. And the guy who jumps to the lead early can lead the entire first stage.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to point out the guys near the front this week are guys Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Austin Cindric.
I was just going to say, don't forget Austin Cindric.
Guys that we trust to perform well at Atlanta. So let's look at the pricing. Let's talk about where our kind of immediate attention goes. And then, like I said, we'll build lineups and all that good stuff. So Byron, the defending champion, obviously last week of the 500, back-to-back wins, starting 16th at 10K. YRB puts it on the poll, puts all of Brian's Austin Cindric poll bets up in flames, and all of the Penske garage just getting in front of Josh Berry also makes me feel okay about, I had a good run, but I'm glad I didn't fire on all these other guys that I was thinking maybe have a chance. Logano starting 4th, Chase Elliott starting 19th, Brad Keselowski starting 9th, Denny Hamlin starting 37th, Austin Cindric rounds out the 9K and above, starting 2nd. I guess, do you have a favorite from the Penske garage? And then who else in this range jumps out as, I want to get some exposure?
I don't think you can look at anybody other than Ryan Blaney when you're looking at the Penske garage. I mean, he went out, he closed as the second shortest odds for the poll behind Austin Cindric. God blessed. And then, he's been incredible here at Atlanta. He has the second best average finish. Has 10 or 5 consecutive top 10 finishes. I believe he has 4 top 5 finishes here at the new Atlanta. He's been so close so many times already. I mean, last year it was 0.003 seconds. He finished behind Daniel Suarez for the victory. And so, and knowing how many laps the guy who jumps out to the lead can lead here at Atlanta, and the fact that you're essentially safe for the majority of the race until the very end while being up front, I have no problem going to him starting on the pole, risking the loss of placements, because it's not like Daytona. And then, the rest of these guys, obviously, I think Denny, a lot of people are going to gravitate to Denny, but the Toyotas haven't necessarily been the greatest here in Atlanta. And so, ironically, a guy that we'd like to shit on often when it comes to betting or DFS, like, I think Chase Elliott is a really good play here because he's been great here on Sundays on track, and he's starting middle of the field. I expect him to be near the front come the end of this race.
I've been staring at the number all day. There's a 20. I think there's as long as 22. We'll talk betting odds here in a minute. I haven't fired yet, but my God, it's compelling. It's just sitting there calling my name. It'll probably be bet before the end of the day. But yeah, I'm with you on Chase Elliott, especially in starting 19th. There's a lot of value there. So even if he doesn't win, if it's just like a top 5 finish, needs some laps, has some good results, I think you're gonna be happy. Blaney is, I think, my favorite guy. I don't hate Logano either. I think he could easily jump to the front and be the guy you need. Byron, we'll see. Hendrick's always been really, really strong here. And Denny is going to be super popular. The second highest roster percentage over at Win the Race, so something to think about there. But he feels like safer chalk for the most part. I know it's Toyotas, and we don't necessarily love them and don't necessarily love Denny at these speedways, but given who he is and his potential, starting 37th, even if it's like a top 10 day, I think you're going to be more than content to have some exposure.
Yeah, I definitely think Denny is, if you're playing cash, you have to have Denny this week.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's a slam dunk. Because we'll talk about, there's a few other names that are starting kind of in the high 20s, mid 30s. And there's a few of those guys that if you wanted to kind of just fade because they're not nearly as reliable, I wouldn't hate doing that. But you pick and you choose. And obviously, if you're in cash, just stack them all. Let's talk 8K. Kyle Busch, Chris Buescher, Kyle Larson, Bubba Wallace, Christopher Bell, Daniel Suarez, Alex Bowman. A fun range. Suarez, I think, is an easy click. Makes a lot of sense. Happy to do that starting 29th. Christopher Bell starting 32nd, 8,200. Bubba and Kyle Larson are kind of mid-pack guys. They're a little, they're interesting enough given how relatively far back they're starting, but they're also a little dangerous. I don't necessarily love Kyle Larson at speedways in general. We saw last week once again has a hard time doing 3 stages of good racing. And then you have Kyle Busch and Chris Buescher, who are both starting inside the top 10. So I guess where does your head go and potential clicks for you in this range?
Well, as much as I want to back my guy Bubba, starting 14th, I think kind of puts him in danger zone for DFS because I think he has a high ceiling of potentially top 5, but in this range, you run the risk of paying $8,300 for maybe 5 placement points and, maybe a couple laps led and, maybe a couple fastest laps when you can actually save $100, go to Christopher Bell, who, like Denny Hamlin, they're going to be good on Sunday. I mean, I don't expect them to be finishing outside the top 20, mind you, outside the top 30 where they're starting. So you already have that built-in cushion of expected placement differential for Christopher Bell versus both Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson for that matter. So I would much rather just go to Bell. And Daniel Suarez, I think this may be the only opportunity for me, because I like to be the contrarian, to not play him, knowing that everybody and their brother is going to be looking at this starting position and saying, hallelujah, this is like a gift from the NASCAR gods, that quite possibly the best guy at this track is starting so far back.
Yeah. So I'm just making clicks as we go through to kind of talk about the most common clicks, the
Yeah.
best targets for cash, if you will. Hamlin, obviously, Bell, and then Suarez. I think Suarez is an easy click. I'm with you, Brian, in terms of if you want to, try and find ways to be different, these getting off of these guys is important. I don't know. Suarez is probably the one guy that I'm not doing it, and maybe that'll be dumb. But if you want to be contrarian, he's a good name to avoid. Bowman is kind of in that Bubba and Larson group. I like him to win. Still like his outright price, but I'm not playing him on DraftKings.
We didn't even talk about Kyle Busch or Chris Buescher, and I think, like, if you're going to pivot off of the Penske guys, or even if you want to pair one or even two of the, like, Blaney and Logano, just thinking they're both going to be leading around 25 to 30 laps minimum with a Buescher or Kyle Busch, I don't hate that either, because I think Kyle Busch is going to be really strong too. Just you're surrendering all those placement point potentials there with him starting sixth, and the same thing with Buescher starting eighth. The hope
Yeah.
would have been that at least Buescher would have kind of qualified the way we're used to seeing RFK qualify and be middle of the pack, or outside the top 20.
Yeah, and they're both going to be great leverage plays if you want to get to them, especially with the elite guys like Logano, like Blaney up at the top, starting near the front. And then obviously you're saving not only the salary, but you're getting a few extra spots. And ownership projection has them in around 10 or sub 10%. So I'm not doing it, especially for KFB. I don't believe in him. And I will probably look to fade him in matchups. But this is a good spot for him. He's starting in a decent enough spot. And if he performs as well as he did in the truck race, he could be optimal for sure. Let's talk sevens. Chase Briscoe starting 25th, Tyler Reddick 18th, Ross the Boss Chastain 33rd, Ricky Stenhouse 34th, Ryan Preece 11th, Tyrone Gibbs 36th, Michael McDowell 24th. The Gilly Gang starting 5th. Some back markers, some mid pack guys. Gilliland starting in the top 5. For me, this range is really compelling. Ross is a phenomenal click. I love where he's starting. I love his opportunity. I love what Trackhouse does here. That being said, if you want to be a little like Brian coded and fade just Trackhouse in general, if you go away from Suarez and Chastain, you're going to fade a lot of ownership potential, and you're going to get some nice leverage on the field, even if you just kind of go to other guys. Like the fact that I like Ricky Stenhouse at speedways, and I think he'll be popular, but I don't know. Is it like I'm looking at ownership projections, and he's technically they're like within a few points of each other, but like I think if you're going between these two guys, like you're clicking Ross Chastain every time if you're looking for like the comfortable click, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's a question. I'm going to go with Chastain over Stenhouse every single day when they're starting one place from each other, and you're not saving a significant amount of money. I mean,
Yeah.
you just look at Trackhouse in general at the super speedways, the finishes may not be there for them, especially Ross Chastain, because he can be aggressive. But I mean, if you were to ask me which one I think is going to wreck out first, it's easily going to be Ricky Stenhouse. And so I'm going to take the guy that I think is going to survive longer and who also has a ceiling that is a race win. So yeah, give me Chastain, and I don't think I would even think twice about that.
Yeah, yeah. What about Tyrone Gibbs, Michael McDowell, even Tyler Reddick? Any interest in those three names?
I'm not a huge. I'm not a huge fan of Gibbs on the super speedways. I haven't seen the aggressiveness from him to like get inside the top 10. I know you get again, similar conversation with Bell as opposed versus Bubba Wallace, that built-in buffer of placement points. But Michael McDowell to me is a guy who, when you go to super speedways, it's not surprising if he's running inside the top 5 and competing in the end up front. Where if Ty Gibbs was doing that, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm willing to eat the placement points between those two guys and take McDowell because he has the higher ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah. The GGR start though of Hamlin, Bell, and Gibbs is kind of a fun build if you wanted to start that way. Let's talk 6Ks. Dinger, Eric Jones, Justin Haley, Josh Berry, AJ. I'm thinking about football. Austin Dillon. There we go. Noah Gragson, Corey LaJoy, Cole Custer, Riley Herbst. That's going to be a popular click at 6,200. If you want to fake Corey LaJoy and watch him run out of talent in stage 2 in a car that's probably not as good as it used to be when he was in Spire, go for it. Easy way to get off some potential ownership. But I have a feeling this is pretty close to the chalk cash lineup when we fire up the race on Sunday.
The one caveat to that, though, is kind of how we led into this conversation, is that the front of the field here at Atlanta has been highly successful. I mean,
Yeah.
I kind of went back just to last year. When you look at this particular race, the top 10 finishers, 5 of them all started inside the top 10. So it's not like you're seeing a bunch of guys from the back of the pack make their way through the field and have tremendous finishes. And also, when you look at it, the guys who start up front, they lead a ton of laps. I mean, just going back.
Is that name Ryan Blaney, or is that name Joseph Logano for the most popular, not the one that you would choose? Although
I think it's probably going to be Blaney.
Yeah.
And when you go back to last spring, for instance, there were 6 drivers who led 27 or more laps apiece. So I mean, there's a significant distribution between lap leaders, but of those 6 guys, all 6 of them started 8th or better.
Yeah.
So you're not getting the Daniel Suarez who's starting in the back of the pack and winds up winning the race, who's also adding 20 to 30 laps led. Like, they're getting there at the end to win the race.
That's a very good point. Especially as we talked about, unless there's some carnage or something.
Exactly.
There's no real reason to pit in stage 1, so it's really just stage 2, and you're trying to catch a good timing, basically.
And something else I like to do, which I could be completely on an island by myself here, but when we have 2 races in a season at a specific track, I tend to lean less into the second trip, because more than likely, as is the case with Atlanta, it was a playoff race. So you have different guys with different priorities during that race, depending on their point situation, and there's different levels of aggressiveness versus playing it safe. And so I don't think it's a true indication of the type of racing that we'll see in the second race of the year. So I take a little bit less from that and like to lean a lot more heavily into what we've seen in the last couple of springtimes here in Atlanta.
Yeah, and I know the setup's changed a little bit, but I think Blaney is the click, given 1, he's on the pole, and 2, just going back to 2020, 4th, 1st, 5th, 17th, 5th, 7th, 9th, 2nd, 3rd. Those are his results since 2020. That's crazy. At a super speedway type track.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it is really aging. I mean, there was an image posted on Twitter. I can't remember who did it. I'm pretty sure I retweeted it, but there was a close up of the track surface in one of the corners, and you can see like the abrasiveness of the track wearing in, and we see it in the races. Like, the high line, the guys are getting squirrely, and keeping it down low is not easy, and that's in trucks and Xfinity. So I'm excited to see what we're going to get on Sunday and as the years go on here.
Yeah, like Logano's record, for example, 10th, 15th, 19th, 9th, 26th, 1st, 17th, 28th, 1st. So Logano's got the ceiling and the floor. Labrini's like ding, 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 ding right there. So yeah, so some version of this is probably going to be the optimal for cash. You can go get LaJoy out of there and put. You can't get to Stenhouse, which I thought would be, which I thought might be the easy click. So that's kind of interesting. So in the 6K range, Eric Jones starting 26th or 28th rather, I think makes sense. Justin Haley starting 21st, 6,700, not bad. Josh Berry starting 3rd, 6,600. Austin Dillon, Noah Gragson. We talked about LaJoy, Colonel Custer, and Riley Herbst. A lot of interesting names that we tend to target at speedway races, but like LaJoy's in a good spot. The rest of them are all like, and I think Eric Jones too, but a lot of them are like high teens, low 20s, and that's a little scary for guys that we just think, okay, this guy can move forward, he can be relatively safe and be reliable and get me, a top 15 finish, starting 37th. But this week when Dylan's starting 15th and Haley's 21st and Gragson's in the top 10, it's hard to click their names as easily.
Yeah, I think for me it's an easy choice, and a lot of this has to do with the paint scheme that he's running this week. That's going to be Riley Herbst. I don't know if anybody saw the paint scheme that 2311 unveiled, the Chuba Casino or whatever it is, giving me wholehearted 90s sitcom vibes, like a combination of Saved by the Bell, Martin, Rugrats, like just a bunch of TV shows all mixed together. I love that paint scheme. And Riley Herbst, for what it's worth, has actually been pretty good at super speedways, and has it not been for wrecks that weren't necessarily his fault, he's probably a guy who we're looking at running inside the top 20 and having an average finish of around 15th, 16th at the super speedways while he's been in the Cup Series. So now in the 2311 equipment, I think Herbst is going to do really well in these types of tracks. And if we're looking at the Toyotas, I think they might have, outside of maybe 2311, because Bubba qualified a little bit better and so did Reddick, maybe come with the idea of handling over speed, which, if we get long runs, could come into play, and which could help these guys out that are starting back in the pack, like a Denny Hamlin and Christopher Bell and a Riley Herbst, who has been really good on this track type.
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw it up for the fine folks to see the paint scheme. It's pretty. It's like maybe like mid 90s all-star, or like I feel like there's like Salt and Peppa,
Yes.
like push it, like circa push it real good. Like
Uh-huh.
that's the vibes I'm getting for sure.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. And that's I know we're aging ourselves. I'm sure
Yeah,
there's
I
probably some
mean,
people on here that are like, who the hell is Salt and Peppa?
to be fair, looking at our our analytics and stuff, I think a lot of people that watch this show are kind of in the same age group. We might be a little there, like might be a few people that are getting cut off. You can just Google Salt and Peppa, but everybody knows how to push it real good. Beyond that, we have the 5K range. So we have Ty Dillon, Carson Hocevar, John Hunter, SVG, Zane Smith, Cody Ware, BJ McLeod, and JJ Yaley. If you're scraping and you're looking and you're like, I need something to make this work, which, given we're at a borderline speedway race, maybe that doesn't necessarily need to or should be happening. But I guess if you're scraping and you're looking for someone sub 6K to make lineups work, who's the click?
I'm going to go with the disgusting Cody Ware again.
Telling you, man, there's
Survive in advance. Survive in advance.
we've been talking about all week that I really want to take advantage of.
I know. I just don't know if it's worth. I can't go to the well 2 weeks in a row with this particular guy. So
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you clicked Cody Ware, BJ McLeod, or JJ Yaley, I wouldn't hate it. It's
I'm a
probably
little
that.
worried about Yaley though, just because of like overall power in the car. So
Yeah, he's basically driving a Honda Civic versus a bunch of souped up Camaros and Mustangs.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So let's clear this out. Let's build lineups. And Mr. Twining, you have the T. Who would you like to see first into our lineup?
Let's get wild and go with the pulse hitter. I know it's dangerous, but I want to do it.
Okay, done. I am going to get my watermelons out and throw Mr. Melon Man himself in there.
I like that. This is terrifying. Man, it's difficult because you got to play the game of laps led, but then also placement differential. Let's just go with Christopher Bell here. I'm going to go with a little bit of a safer one.
Okay, I'm going to click Daniel Suarez. If I'm doing Trackhouse, I'm doing Trackhouse. We can do another lineup without Trackhouse, but I like both of them a lot this week. And in fact, rocking the Trackhouse hat to represent.
All right. So with that in mind, knowing we need somebody else up front, this goes against everything that is in my nature of being a contrarian, but let's go with Kyle Busch. I know everybody is leaning with him. He won the truck race, and normally when he wins the truck race, he performs really well on Sundays.
I will say his at least his expected roster percentage is pretty low. Yeah, because like the name that I was thinking would be Logano.
Yeah, but I worry just because of the two Penske guys. Like,
yeah, and I also like they're both Blaney and Logano are popular. I don't know how popular they'll be together. But
yeah,
they're both look like
that
they're
is a good
gonna
point.
have some good potential roster percentage. So the names we're looking at for the final click are Stenhouse, Michael McDowell, Eric Jones, Corey LaJoy, I think are the four reasonable names that we can throw into this lineup. Do you have a strong preference? I mean, Ty Gibbs, I guess, technically, too.
I mean, there isn't a guy that I'm like
I
leaning
will say
heavy.
Gibbs is a little bit higher than I expected in terms of
I have zero interest in Gibbs, to be
yeah.
honest with you. Yeah, I'm not a fan of I. This is gross, but I would rather play Eric Jones this week.
Yeah, I would too, I think.
All right, let's do it. Let's just get absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I think that's the click because we're getting off of some potential ownership per win the race. And the ceilings there. I will say McDowell is tempting because we can afford him. His roster percentage is around the same ballpark. His average DK points are a little bit higher. And he's in the top 6% of the scores more often. So do we take all that information and go, I know better, play Eric Jones, or do we play Michael McDowell? Because McDowell's numbers are probably a lot of while he was at Spire or while he was at
Front row.
So I'm and you always, and that's why like things like this are great, but you do need to have some kind of critical thought about not just leaning heavily into the Sims. All right, so Jones or McDowell?
Let's do Jones.
Okay.
I think he's a little bit less of a ceiling, but I think he might be a little bit safer in the long run of the race because I think McDowell might get a little bit more aggressive sooner.
Yeah.
You know,
All right, let's do another lineup. And in this lineup, we won't track house it up. No track house across the board.
Austin Cindric.
Oh my god. Dennis Hamlin.
Oh, this is terrifying. All right, Chase Elliott.
Chase Briscoe.
Oh, what is it with you and Chase Briscoe? Oh man. All right. So we've kind of peppered the field. We need some salary saving.
We can do like a Christopher Bell and then go down to like 6K, 6,300 and below. So LaJoy, Herbst, Custer, that kind of stuff. Or
I
we
don't mind playing Herbst with that lineup.
Yeah. So if we do Herbst, which I think we like, and we got some Toyota. It's Toyota, and then a Chevy and a Ford.
Yeah, it's the Toyota lineup.
So that gets us up to 85. So that's Bubba Larson, Bell. Bell is a click 8,200. Or Stenhouse.
I think it's got to be either Bell or Daniel Suarez. I don't think there's a conversation to be had to select Chastain or Stenhouse over either Bell or Suarez.
Okay. So if should we just go completely sans?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Bell.
Yeah.
So since we're doing the Toyota thing here.
Yeah.
All right. Saving that lineup. This is fun. I'm having fun building lineups again. All right. NASCAR, where you at? There you are. Here.
All right. I'm gonna let you tee it off.
I'm gonna force it. I'm gonna force it. I don't care. Boom. Boom. Give me two names. I don't care where they are.
No. Okay, so I think we both agree we like both Trackhouse guys.
Yeah.
So that's a given. So now you tee us off with like a selection because I know where I'm going.
Whoa. Okay.
And it's a spot that you're not. I can guarantee.
I think I'm gonna do this just because why not? We have a Blaney lineup, we have a Cindric lineup, now we have Logano lineup. Did I just ruin your expectations?
Kyle Larson.
Oh God. Why would you do that to me?
Just think about this. This is the guy who has the second worst average finish at Atlanta among all full-time drivers that have run 4 or more of these races.
Okay.
Since on the new reconfiguration. Everybody and their brother who's in the NASCAR community knows that Kyle Larson has one of the worst average finishes at Atlanta and has the worst luck ever at super speedways in general. His freaking team president, Jeff Gordon, is on record of basically calling him out last week at Daytona, asking why Kyle Larson is not good at this track type. There is no better time to play Kyle Larson than the week that every single person is going to be fading him, thinking that this is a track where he's going to suck. So if you want to get different, I think you got to play Larson in a lineup. Obviously, don't get too exposed to it, but he's also not been afraid to run up front. Like, he just gets in wrecks, which is why his finishing results suck. But he finds his way to the front. And if he can just avoid the chaos, maybe he finishes inside the top 5, grabbing his first ever top 5 at a super speedway-esque track.
I mean, I hate it, but I also don't hate it. Question for you is, I'm going to pick a second Hendrick guy if we're going in on Larson. Hendrick's having a big week. Do we get real feisty with the 500 winner and go up and grab Willie B? Or do we play it a little more casual, a little easier build, and grab Chase Elliott?
I mean, Elliott gives us $500 and 3 extra placement points.
Okay, so we're picking William Byron. That gives us
And then it's Cody
6,100.
Ware. It's an easy fill.
Oh my god! Done. Look at that.
I-
We just won all the money this week. All the money.
I do want to say that I do think that Shane Van Gisbergen, I think he's a little bit better than what we're going to be giving him credit for at this point in time of his career on super speedways.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if a lot of people are going to be playing him in lineups.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good shout. The one thing I'm going to say is I'm playing this lineup with Ryan Blaney too. That's how confident I am in it. And I hate Kyle Larson at speedways, but the natural contrarian in my brain says this is awesome. We should fire it up. All right, let me
oh my gosh! Look, I'm going to be honest with the people.
Be honest.
I have 2 outrights bet for the week. The one that we called out on the show earlier in the week, which was the Alex Bowman at 28, and I personally bet Kyle Larson at 20 just for the hell of it. Very small play. Nothing that's going to burn a hole in my pocket. But yeah, I had to get some action on Larson when I know that nobody else is.
We'll save that. Let's go to contest. Don't dupe us. Lobby. Let's see.
I mean, or you could dupe us and just ride the wave of success.
Yeah. Let's see. Where is the single entry? Like $15. Nobody needs to watch me do this. I can do this on the other screen while we're talking. All right. So let me refresh this just to see if it gives us more odds because they were okay. Cool. So Brian, let's talk. Bet365 currently has Ryan Blaney at plus 250 to win the race. ESPN Bet has Ryan Blaney at plus 350 to win the race. And then a variety of other shops have him anywhere from 650 to 750 to win the race. I told you before we started doing this. The value hound, if you will, in me sees 250 and 350 in market, and maybe they're poor lines, and maybe they're way too short for comfort. But knowing that there's a 250 and a 350 when I can get 650 or 750, really want to, especially with a guy that I do trust. I know this is more of a speedway type race, but God, do I want to bet Ryan Blaney to win this race?
I'm going to go against everything that I said earlier in the week, but if you want to play all 3 of these Penske guys and just call it a day, I wouldn't hate that. Of course, that's assuming you can't still get like plus 250 or plus 275 on Penske to win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a non-zero chance that this race turns out to be exactly like the Xfinity race, and it's basically Penske does exactly what RCR does in the Xfinity series, and they control the entire day and run away with it. One of the 3 guys, with all 3 of them starting on the front 2 rows, there's a legit chance that we have a 3-car train running away from the field, with them being about a 10th or so faster than almost everybody else.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. And honestly, if you wanted to throw a little shekel at Josh Berry, who in the Wood Brothers is as close to a Penske driver without being a Penske driver, I wouldn't hate that either. But I'm not doing it at 250 or 350. I'm looking for Penske at that price, where I'm grabbing. I need at least 650, ideally 7.
I mean, it's terrifying though, because we've seen it where one guy gets loose underneath somebody and then he takes out the entire front row or a couple of rows, and so you run the risk there of, burning a hole in your budget early in the year on a race that could be a crapshoot. And so, you got to be careful there. But Ryan Blaney is as good as anybody on this track, and now with him starting on the pole and he's got the best car, he could just dust the field the entire day.
100%. 100%. So Blaney 750, Logano, you can still get as long as 10, which is really nice. I think 9 is across the board, so that's fine. Don't bet the 6 at 365.
Oh no.
Cindric, you can get like 10, 12, something like that. That's fine. Not betting Kyle Busch, not betting Denny Hamlin, not betting Brad Kay, not betting Chris Bell, Chase Elliott. I think I'm going to do it.
22, it breaches that magic number that I talked about earlier in the week, that 20-1 spot, which is where I like to be on these tracks for outrights. And so you get another Hendrick guy who on Sundays, which is really the only segment of the weekend that actually matters, that this team is incredible. And I know I played Chase Elliott's season win total under 1.5 this year, so obviously I'm hoping he doesn't win, but at the same time, I think he has a legit chance to win this Sunday, and so I don't hate getting there at that 22 number if that's still available.
And you know what else is really compelling? William Byron won last week at 22.
Well,
it probably means nothing, but it could mean something. All right, where is he? Let's see. At 22 at 365. So let's fire up the 365 just to make sure I am betting real numbers. And if not, I will take the 20 because I know that's widely available. Let's go over to NASCAR. Let's go to win. And Chase Elliott is 22 at 365. So I will.
Man, look at that Larson at 25.
Are you gonna put it on the card?
That's calling my name right there. Damn, now I'm upset.
Fire.
Let's do it.
Poor Hendrick. They never stood a shot.
Right. Yeah, they're definitely losing. And I will say, obviously, you're going to be watching this Sunday morning, so make sure you shop the numbers. And then also keep in mind that because of the variance of this type of racing and the weird pit road entrance that puts guys a lap and a half down if they have to pit under green, live odds may actually be the way to attack this race.
Yeah.
Even from the favorite perspective. Like, say Ryan Blaney has a pit road penalty and he's got to, come down on I can't even think about what it's called right now. He's got to go down pit lane during the green flag. Yeah, he has a pass-through penalty and he goes down a lap or two. If he can just get back on the lead lap, like you can probably get him at 15 to 20 to 1 at that moment when he goes multiple laps down. So I think this could be an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I would save a live bullet or two to fire for the race. Even if you're adding to a guy you already drew a bet, like I like Cindric, I got some 15 or 12 or whatever he was, and double down. Byron 22, Busher 25, Kyle Larson, we could mention is 25. Bubba Suarez as long as 30. Is he really 30? I'm adding Daniel Suarez. It's probably stupid to add this many bets, especially since I'm not like doing like a quarter of a unit like I was last week. But like I said, when I see, you know what?
Don't do it.
Okay. So right now I'm just so people know, I have Briscoe at 30 because sure. Bowman at 28. There was a 30 on FanDuel. I don't think it's existing anymore.
I think that's gone.
Yeah. It was there. And Chase Elliott at 22. So those are 3 outrights. I don't really want to keep adding, and I don't know that I love Suarez to win back-to-back years, but who knows? This could be, Byron won the 2024 and 2025 500. Then we get Suarez to win. We'll just keep that train going. The other thing is, and we talked about this with Wormy, and I was listening to Robin is Racing with Spider, and he was talking about the Trackhouse stuff and Connor Zillich and what his expectations are, what Daniel Suarez may have to do.
Yep, I know where you're going.
Maybe it's kind of just done, and like the I think like the writing is already on the wall. The moves is in theory already been made. Silly season is upon us. But if Daniel Suarez wants to keep his ride and or more importantly, have just guarantee somewhere, whether it's with a different team next year, because I mean, if he's a free agent, maybe he becomes more compelling than some of the other names that are currently have seats. But winning Atlanta and then finding another maybe a road course would be a hell of a good way to find, maybe he wins in Mexico. Get some traction in terms of 2026, 2027, ensuring that he has a seat. Because as much as we all love me amigo, he hasn't quite been the guy. And if Zillich is the LeBron, Bryce Harper prodigy that we all think he can be, maybe the decision's already done because Trackhouse is like, we got to get this, and that's it. And maybe that's part of why Pitbull's out, because they know Suarez is leaving, and I don't know. I'm just connecting dots over here. Josh Berry, I mentioned him. If you're betting Penske, you want to bet the Penske garage and throw you're doing your $100 on those guys, and then you put $10 on Josh Berry at 35. I think that's fun. I might not bet Daniel at 30, but Lord help me, I'm about to bet Ross at 40. 40? If that's a real number, I'm betting that. Bet 365.
I mean, maybe Bet365 already opened up their pari-mutuel betting numbers, and by the time you get down on this, it come close on Sunday, it's going to be friggin' 10-1.
Yeah, that's
which, by the way, F that. That has no business being in our damn space.
That's a off-season, silly season content talk with Wormy, and maybe Furman about what does that mean, how does that look, and what is the actual ramifications of something like that. It feels like a thing that they say that never really actually comes to fruition, but but yeah, if you can have access to 365 and you can bet that 40, I recommend betting that 40. I'm not betting the 25, but I will bet the 40. God, imagine if I just bet Briscoe at 50 instead of it. What is 365 just trying to rope us into like dumb bets all week?
Look, I've only made one.
I've
only added one, Kyle.
I will
Speak
say
for yourself.
Blaney is plus 250, Cindric is 6, Logano is 6. So they have to like offset it somehow. But that seems crazy. Let us know down in the comments. Are you just betting Penske and logging out? Or do you think there is value with Ross at 40, Suarez at 30, Priest, Briscoe, Gibbs, whoever you want to throw in there? Yeah. I added some watermelon at 3/4 of a unit.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with my two Hendrick guys of Bowman and Larson, and then if I can find it out there, I do think adding the Penske team as a whole somehow, some way, I think is the way to go.
Well, let's take a peek and see if we can find a way. Winning team, perhaps? Plus 260 on Penske. So you can bet
plus 260?
Ryan Blaney at plus 250, or you can bet all of Team Penske at plus 260.
Oh yeah, I'm adding plus 260 to the card, by the way.
Should we just add that to the card? Add it on mine too.
Yeah, that's getting bet for sure.
That
doesn't make any sense.
The Discord ping just hit with a very similar with actually the same bet.
Yeah, because I found it on our favorite offshore, and then
The benefit of being a win the race member is the Discord, which pings awesome bets, and it's hilarious timing that right after we said that a ping comes through with that bet literally in there. So who knows by the time we talk, by the time you're watching this, what that number is actually at. But yeah, I would recommend
Yeah, we can go ahead and say right now, as you're watching this, that number will no longer be available.
yeah. Fun times jumping in on numbers that make you go, what?
Yeah.
What?
And this is why you shop, folks, because Penske, let me just tell everybody, Penske before qualifying, I believe I saw as far out as maybe plus 275, I think it was.
Yeah.
So for them to not even really see that much movement when they clearly are better in terms of just horsepower or something
Well, and
here.
you're getting
And
the
something
top
else to keep
3
in mind.
cars in the odds market. It just went to 250 on Caesars
Yeah.
as we're talking.
You saw live, folks. And something else to keep in mind, everybody, there was a lot of talk last year about Front Row Motorsports and them grabbing the poles at these tracks and their numbers constantly shortening before we went green. The Penske garage of Austin Cindric, Joey Logano, and Ryan Blaney is the gap between them and what McDowell and Todd Gilliland were last year is immeasurable in terms of skill level. And so this is not a play where even the variance is going to dump you. I mean, it's going to be obviously there's variance out this racing style, but you have 3 of the best, maybe 6, 7 super speedway racers on a track that kind of races like a super speedway, and the garage that has absolutely dominated this track the last 2 years.
Yeah. Hokely dokely. Fun times. And yeah, grabbing that when we did, I think was the move. Okay. Are you interested in Hendrick at 550, or are we just betting our favorite of the Bowman Larson? Because you can get them all like 20, right?
Yeah, like I'm not getting down on them as a team, especially too because I'm already sitting on both Bowman and Larson at like 28 and 25 respectively.
Rather just bet some Chase or some
Yeah,
flyer.
as you said, like you shop Chase around, you get him at 22, and
Yeah.
you're here you go, folks. You're seeing it live right now. The number just dropped to plus 225.
This is why you're in the Discord. This is why, because you get that
Yes.
number, and then people pound it, and then it moves, and then it moves, and then it moves. So what do you think? 150 when people are actually watching this?
I'm gonna say as we sit here right now at 8:27 p.m. Eastern, by the time we get here, oh wow, moved again. By the time we get to green flag on Sunday, this will be plus 175, plus 165.
I will say our favorite offshore still has 250. So
Yeah, and because it is a super speedway style, I only played our favorite Mr. Benjamin on that. So that's not gonna move the number. So
no. So I think winner of stage 1. No, that's not what I want.
These numbers are definitely cooked. So Cindric, all the Penske guys, I think were the play because I sent out a tweet earlier in the week about the stage 1 winner in this race started their respective race, I believe, in the last 5 Atlanta visits. I believe that's what it was. So like it's either Blaney or Cindric is probably going to take
You can bet Ryan Blaney to win stage 1 and win the race and get
Nope,
36
can't.
and a half. Oh, god damn it. Sorry, everybody. I was all
Oh
excited because
man.
it showed it. Usually it just does like, you
Yes,
can't
yeah.
bet this.
Usually it just tells you error.
Let's see. I wonder if there's a stage 1, win stage 1. Winner of stage 1 and stage 2 wins the race. 8-1. That's
That's only
garbage.
happened once here, and I think that was the first time we came here, and that was Chase Elliott when
That's
he
garbage. That's
dominated the
garbage.
field.
All right. Top Chevy, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, 650. That's kind of interesting if you like Larson. Byron Elliott at 7. I don't hate that. Ross at 10. Don't hate that. Although the thing about this is, like we talked about with the 500, winning, being the top Chevy in this race,
Is basically top 3 or win.
yeah, you're almost, it's just better to bet them to win.
Yeah.
Bowman is 12. I'm fine. Like, if you want to get wild with one of these guys and say that Penske wins the race, but maybe one of these guys is the top Chevy, then I don't hate that.
AJ Allmendinger.
Sure. SVP 50-1.
I've only had. I'm like, I haven't even finished a beer, and I'm already off the rails. So,
Is there any Ford that you would consider beyond the Blaney, Logano, Cindric?
so I do think there's some value in this market for somebody like a Ryan Preece, for instance, who's
22.
because he didn't qualify as well as he was expected after his Daytona run. But in the end, I just have a hard time believing that all 3 Penske guys are going to get taken out and removed from competing for the win. So I just don't think that's a market to even attack this week.
Yeah, I would say LaJoy is interesting because, like, his top 5 number is 6.
But I think on somebody like LaJoy, I think you shop their placement markets because
That's what
you
I'm
can still.
doing.
Well,
Because
that's what I'm saying.
you can get him at 28 to be top Ford, or he's 6 to be top 5, and he's 16 to be top 3. So
Look,
I'd rather.
there's an argument to be made that Corey LaJoy could finish 4th and be the 4th best Ford.
That's fair. It's fair.
So I have zero interest in LaJoy top 4 this week.
I have more
because
interest.
that's assuming that all 3 Penske guys get taken out.
But if I'm betting LaJoy top Ford, I'm betting LaJoy to win the race, and I'm taking like
Exactly.
$10 on a $10 bet and putting like 7 on the 28 and then 3 on his outright price.
Okay, he's 80-1 offshore to win the race. I'm going to bet that over his top 3 or top Ford market all day.
Right. Well, I'm saying put like $5 on the top Ford, or $5 on the outright, 80-1, and then put $10 on the 28-1, and then you have 2 nice tickets. And if he has the day that, if you think he's going to have a good day, then you jump in on it. Let's see. What about Toyota? Because I feel like there's opportunity there, mostly because we don't truly believe in any of them to have a monster day. Briscoe at 7, I think is fine. Eric Jones at 12, I think is fine. Your boy Riley Herbst at 20. John Hutner at 20.
Me and John Hunter are not friends right now in the betting space. After I still believe it was his fault as to why Bubba Wallace fell last week, because as soon as he jumped in front of the 23 car, that lane fell back. But yeah, I would much rather attack this market, and this is something we talk about every single week, because you have a 1 in 9 chance of hitting this, which outside of the top couple of guys, I think you're still getting decent numbers on that, because in especially a race like this, where there is variance possible, any of these guys can essentially finish as the top Toyota. And so I wouldn't mind playing a Hunter Nemechek or a Herbst at 20-1 when there's only 8 other cars they have to beat. Whereas when you go into the Chevy and the Ford camp, even if you're getting 40 or 50, like, you got to beat 15 guys to wind up in front of that manufacturer.
Yeah. Okay. What else? You want any matchups or anything jumping out before we kind of start wrapping up and get ready to get out of here?
Well, I'm gonna say it on the show, and I had a bet for me as we were talking. You probably heard me clicking. Chase Elliott plus 130 over Brad Keselowski over at Bet365. I'm a sucker. I'm a sucker for big plus money matchups on this track type, and you're gonna give me the hometown boy who has a victory here and has never finished worse than 15th on this track, and for a garage that clearly came with handling and not just overall speed in mind against Keselowski, who only has 2 finishes better than 12th at Atlanta and just cannot finish races at this track type. Yes, I'm going to take that every single day.
Brian Twining. I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin that for you by taking it also.
Oh, shit.
As someone with the Chase Elliott outright, I have to jump on that. The one thing I will say is today is a great reminder why it's good to be patient with outrights if you don't absolutely love it and think it's going to move like crazy.
Yeah.
Because Briscoe, I'm happy to have it, but like I could get a better number today. I could also make that Daniel Suarez. I can make that somebody else. Bowman, I'm happy to have because it's moved enough where it's fine, but I don't know. Suarez versus Busher, I don't love that. Byron, you can get Larson at plus 100 versus Byron. You can get that's kind of it. Let's go back here and see. Is there matchups? Probably not. It's probably on the Action Network. Let's go BetMGM. Any matchups over here? Specials maybe? No, futures. There we go. Oh no, they only have 3, 5, and 10. So, any matchups here? Let's see. Team Penske is minus 115 over here. That's crazy.
Oh my gosh.
Which I mean makes sense given where their numbers are at. Bubba plus 100 versus Busher. Yeah, there's the Elliott versus Keselowski. I like that. Suarez. Briscoe plus 130 versus Suarez is interesting enough, but I like them both, so I'm not going to do it. What
I was
about
just going to say, and Suarez is this is the Pinata race for him. Like, it's his fiesta.
Yeah. What about we both aren't really into KFB, but that plus 140 versus Logano is kind of interesting.
I actually don't hate that, just because Kyle Busch has been really good here too, and especially if you're going to give me a large plus money play on that, and you're kind of hedged off of that with your Team Penske win a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to look at before we recap our card and give everyone? Obviously, make sure you check out the newsletter that will be posting, aoppodcast.substack.com. The link is in the description. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com, our completely free newsletter. You get that in your email inbox every race day if you sign up. Worth your time. You can always get it. And if you have time to read it, cool. If you don't have time to read it, that's fine too. And obviously, if you're watching the pod, you're getting a lot of the information. But our final betting cards are on there. Our grid rivals picks, which we haven't even set up one for. We tweeted out 1 or 2 maybe, but we'll have some more in the newsletter.
Oh, yeah.
Our thoughts on grid rival. Make sure you go check out that. And remember, AOP 25 gets you 100% match deposit bonus up to $100. And check out our friends over at Win the Race. Not only are you getting sims and fair market value for your bets, head-to-head tools, DFS tools, but the Discord, it's popping.
You saw it live on the show, folks.
That is the value of the subscription. There's, I believe, monthly, so you could jump in for a month and see if it's for you, and if it's not, then pull the ripcord and be like, nah, I can do it other ways. But it's worth jumping in, especially right now where you can get good races, see what's coming up, get in the Discord and chat, get the community going, because that's the biggest benefit is the community, the driving, and then obviously the analytics and sims to help you with your DraftKings lineups, making sure you're getting the best of the number, all of that good stuff. All right, Brian, should we recap our card and let everyone know where we're at?
Yeah, let's do it. I got
do it.
writing, and for
Okay.
some of you that didn't know, I'm an old ass man still going to school searching for that bachelor. So
Trying to get that final rose, Mr. Brian Twining. I have Chase
stay in school,
Briscoe,
kids. Stay in school.
30, Alex Bowman, 28, Chase Elliott, 22, Ross Chastain, 40. I have Bowman top Chevy at 12, which you can still find. Jones top Toyota at 10. I think there's even a 12 in market now. I have Penske to win at plus 260. Obviously, you saw the number move significantly, but we grabbed that. And I jumped on the Elliott over Keselowski at plus 130. Brian has Bowman at 28 to 1 to win the race. He has Cindric at 11, which I love from pre-qualifying, right?
Yeah, and that's just for
Yeah.
stage 1. So
To win stage 1. So if he gets out and then he can run it, boom. Grab that Larson 25 because he's a sucker for punishment. You can see Brian's much more under control. I get way too excited in firearms and stuff. Also look at his unit size versus mine, but that's okay because you know what we'll do? We'll come over here. Boom! I got a little
that
bit of a
helps when you hit
bankroll.
friggin' 30 to 1
30 to
pulse.
1 qualifier. I thought I was going to get it today with Josh Berry, but obviously
Oh,
not.
dude, don't even. Two
And then you
times
had
already been burned
yeah,
with Cindric.
Cindric. So that's where we're at. Those are our bets as of now. Like I mentioned, we will have our final betting card in our newsletter, along with links to the episode, Grid Rivals picks, DraftKings write-ups, bet write-ups. Make sure you go subscribe to Win the Race. Like I said, it's worth your time. Make sure you're checking out with Grid Rival, deposit money. Even if you're not depositing, join our free
Yes.
listener league. It's completely free. If you miss Daytona, that's fine. You can jump in now. You get the lowest total, so you're going to start with points. And there's a long season, so there's plenty of time. And at the end of the year, the winner does get a prize, but you have to beat Brian and I. Anything else you want to mention before we get out of here, Brian?
No, make sure you enjoy the race and get ready for the actual racing next week at COTA, where we will be firing off a significant amount of bets for. You'll see my units actually start to come in.
I think the bets need to stay about the same. I think it's the unit size that's going to go up. But we will be back in your feed on Wednesday morning to hopefully get ahead of the COTA market and then get back together Saturday night, get you ready for Sunday's action. Make sure you're subscribed. Turn on those bell notifications so you know when we have new episodes. Jump in the Discord. Jump in the Grid Rival League. Jump in the Substack. Get all the stuff. So much content coming your way. That is Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. We appreciate you listening. We appreciate you checking it out. Drop some comments. Let us know if you have any questions. Let us know who's winning. Let us know your favorite DraftKings plays. We're building it out. We'll talk to you next.